You stand beneath a sky of dust and discipline. The sun is high, the earth is packed clay. You wear hemp, your hands blistered from shaping bricks and dreams. This is not the land of flowing silk and dragon stories. This is the Qin Empire. No kingdoms, no compromise. Only one name now, one law, one emperor. And you, a nameless drone, working, toiling, is building the great wall that will keep the barbarians out, brick by bloody brick. You are just a cog in the machine that the emperor uses to keep his people safe. A machine that has no need for your dreams, your hopes, your fears, or even your name. For here in the Qin Empire, they have built an empire of order and control, and you are just a number. But one day the emperor will need you. He will need you to fight his wars, to conquer new lands, to bring him more glory. And when that day comes, you will be ready. You will be a nameless soldier, an anonymous face in the emperor's army, fighting for an empire that doesn't care about your name. China was an idea before it was a place. To make the biggest empire in the world, someone had to unite it. Someone did. But the birth of nations always sucks. Back to school. Let's talk about the first emperor. Welcome to my channel. This is Back to School. And we believe that history is best taught by storytelling. So let's learn some history. You didn't volunteer. You were conscripted. Like everyone else, you've been working for weeks, building a nation from the bones of many. You know the task ahead. You carry mud on your back. You shape it into walls that will one day be called great. But today, they are just long and endless and hot. The supervisors bark. The lashes crack. You speak the wrong dialect. They strike you. There are no breaks. No shade. You sleep in barracks beside men who may not wake up. You eat millet, boiled to glue. You dream of rivers, mothers, or simply read. Silence. If you collapse, they bury you in the wall. No monument bears your name. Just length. How do you write the history of the greatest achievement in ancient engineering? How do you tell the story of the most ruthless ruler in Chinese legend? We look at the first emperor and we see his achievements. Great wall, great roads, great armies, great innovations. But every great achievement has a cost. When you standardize weights and measures, you erase local customs. When you mandate a single written language, you extinguish dialects. When you build the largest army in the world, you send farmers to the front lines. Farmers who have never held a weapon. We look at the accomplishments of the Qin, and we see this army, silent, full-sized, facing east. Every soldier different. Every face detailed. They called him Ying Zhang, but the world remembers him as Qin Shi Huang, the first emperor. He was brilliant, ruthless, paranoid. He crushed 6 kingdoms. Standardized writing, currency, even axle widths. He made history and erased those who wrote it before him. He outlawed the past. He burned the books. He buried scholars alive. But even he couldn't silence time. As he aged, he feared death more than enemies. He drank mercury, believing it made him immortal. He searched for magic islands, sent ships to ward myths. And when he died in 200 BC, his body was smuggled into the capital in a wagon of rotting fish. He ruled everything, but not forever. This is Back to School. You might think that history is over, that the end of the Qin dynasty means we can move on to the Han. But what happens when the greatest ruler in Chinese history dies and no one knows? How does an empire react when its authority is a mystery? What happens when the rule of law ends and chaos threatens to engulf the nation? Well, we're glad you asked, because the next episode of Back to School is all about that. The fall of the Qins, the rise of the Hans, and the end of slavery in China. So hit subscribe now so you don't miss out. He loved 2 things, hunting and control. From a young age, he hunted alone. He hated noise. He hated crowds. Hated everything except horses, bows, and strategy. The boy whose mother was a servant, who clawed his way to power in a house of brothers, would become the most powerful man in the world. He'd also become the most feared. He crushed rebels, subjugated states, eliminated rivals, and forced submission until there was nothing left to conquer. But he wasn't satisfied with only land. He wanted to rule the minds of men. He knew that ideas could change the world, so he controlled them. All knowledge, all learning, all books were to be submitted to the imperial court. Here, censors comb through scrolls, eliminating anything critical, anything dangerous, anything that might undermine the authority of the state. Scholars who passed the exams were rewarded. Those who failed put to death. It became a capital offense to own certain texts, to study others. Entire fields of learning disappeared. A generation of books and learning were lost to the flames. But he kept the records. He established a complete system of record-keeping based on the number of a given item. All revenue went to the central government. And local officials were forbidden to collect taxes, conscript laborers, or draft animals. Everything was registered. Everything belonged to the emperor. He created a system of uniform weights and measures, standardized tools, and even mandated the width of axles so that wheels would not break on bumpy roads. He reformed the calendar, reorganized the courts, even issued a national language. And though he rarely spoke it himself, the world would remember him for his legalist agenda. Harsh, efficient, absolute, centralized. Because according to him, without rules, without laws, there can be no peace. Without punishment, there can be no obedience. And without a leader, there can be no order. He was right. But the problem was, he didn't know when to stop. The nobility opposed him at every turn, so he crushed them. The scholars opposed him with their Confucian ways, so he persecuted them. The peasants opposed him with their labor, so he starved them. With each passing year, the nation grew more rigid, more stilted. People learned to answer only when spoken to. They worked, they ate, and they slept. But they never asked why. The last emperor of the Qin was brilliant. He understood logistics and agriculture. He set the stage for the golden age of the Han dynasty. He gave the world a fighting chance against chaos, but he took that too far. He built the largest army ever assembled and marched it into distant lands. He pushed his people to the edge of the known world. He sent explorers across the seas to find new resources and new lands, and he expected the world to bend to his will. But the farthest point doesn't care about the ruler at home, and the sea is a hard mistress. When the Qin army returned, they brought news of other armies. Gongnu horsemen who stole children and livestock, nomadic tribes with strange languages and stranger gods, enemies unlike any the empire had faced before. And while the emperor focused on distant threats, the real problems festered at home. By the end of his life, the empire was exhausted. People were desperate. The economy was crippled. The floods had come. The dynasty was about to fall. The emperor was gone, his body smuggled into the capital. No one knew that Yingxing had died. No one knew that the great emperor had fallen. The empire was frozen in a moment of stillness. It was the perfect opportunity for change, for a new beginning. For someone to take the reins of the greatest empire in the world and lead it into a golden age. But what if no one dared? Because throughout the realm, former nobles gathered in secret, plotting their return to power. The old families, the wealthy landowners, the warlords, the generals, they waited for a sign. Any sign that the empire might be faltering, that the rule of law might be weakening, that the iron fist of the emperors might loosen its grip on the nation. And soon enough, the people would give it to them. Riots broke out everywhere. Peasants rose up against corrupt officials. Soldiers refused to fight foreign wars. Rebel armies seized key cities. Within months, the entire empire was in chaos. It seemed like the whole world was breaking apart. But as the old order crumbled, for new kingdoms rose. They divided the empire amongst them. They fought bitter wars. They carved out new borders. They reset the foundations of the nation. And when the dust settled, a new dynasty stood triumphant. But who were these new rulers? What would their world look like? The Great Wall of China is one of the world's most famous landmarks. It's also one of the world's largest, stretching over 13,000 miles. It was built over several centuries to protect China from invaders. But it wasn't built all at once. Different dynasties added to it and modified it, and it fell into disrepair many times. But the most impressive section was built during the Qin dynasty, the first dynasty to unite China under one ruler. This is the story of the man who built the Great Wall. The year is 200 BC, after years of fighting. You have finally brought all of China under your rule. You are the first emperor. Your empire stretches from the Korean peninsula in the east to the Himalayas in the west. A distance of more than 3,000 miles. To the north is the Xiongnu, a nomadic tribe that has been raiding your borders. You need a way to keep them out. Yes, So you order the construction of a wall to be built across the northern border. But the wall is only one of your grand projects. You're obsessed with order and organization. You divide your empire into provinces and counties and set up a central government in the capital city of Xianyang. You standardize the weights and measures, create a new written language, and even invent a new calendar. Your subjects, however, are not so thrilled with all of these changes. Many of them had been happy with the old ways of doing things and are resistant to your reforms. You are suspicious by nature, and you take this resistance as a sign of disloyalty. You turn to your secret police force for help. They spy on your people, arresting and torturing anyone who so much as whispers a word against you. The construction of the wall is more difficult than you anticipated. The terrain is rough, and the workers are constantly battling the elements. But you don't care about the cost or the suffering. You want the wall built quickly so you can focus on your other projects. As the years pass, the wall grows longer and longer. It is now over 4,000 miles long. But the Jiannu are still able to sneak through the gaps in the wall. You are furious and order your generals to attack them, but they come back defeated. You are forced to admit that the wall is not enough. You need more soldiers to defend your empire. You raise an army of 300,000 men and set out to conquer the lands beyond the Great Wall. You return to Shanyang a hero, but your health is failing. You know that you won't live much longer. You spend your last years writing down your thoughts and plans for your empire in a book. Call it The Art of War. When you die, your son takes the throne. He is a weak ruler, and soon China falls into civil war. The Great Wall, along with the rest of your empire, crumbles to dust. But the Great Wall outlived the Qin dynasty. And today, it stands as a testament to the first emperor's dream of a united China. Thanks for watching.